our art check round, I don't know, 160 or something, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we are testing out StreamYard, as you can see, floating above Josh's head. And in theory, people that send, hey, if anybody's watching this, send a comment on YouTube, because we should be able to put comments up on the screen. I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be cool. Like, I know that I think we can also broadcast at the same time to Facebook, and I think all the chat should show in the same place, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. So
and I don't know if anyone prefers Facebook to watch something like this, but I don't know. Wouldn't hurt. Yeah, there's a lot of cool features, but
yeah, cool.
Exciting.
Okay, yeah. So we've got Kayla. See if I can. There's her comment. So we can put stuff directly up on the screen like that. So that's cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's rad.
All right.
Cool. All right. Should we jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we've got to do this a little bit differently. So I'm going to share my screen and jump over here like that. So what I got done is this head turning animation, and then I was playing with this kind of sketchy style of animation that I haven't really played with before. But I had a student a couple of weeks ago ask me a question about it, and I thought, I'm curious on how that would work. So I kind of drew that in Photoshop and then animated it in After Effects to make it look kind of like a Bill Plimpton style.
Nice.
Yeah, and that head turn is still not perfect. There's like things that are not working about it, but that was really complicated. So next time I know more of what not to do. But yeah, so I think if I press stop sharing, it should jump back over. Yep, we're back.
Cool. Now that head turn that you did, that's still rigged though, like so you can kind of like, is that joysticks as well?
Yeah, so that's joysticks and sliders, and so I can go in and turn the head keyframed whenever I want.
That's so cool.
So yeah, the idea would be to have a crowd of ants, and I'm going to put like a wiggle expression on the X position value of that slider, so that their heads are just kind of randomly turning back and forth, just so it gives it some kind of randomness to the crowd, even though they all look the same.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool.
Cool. So, Josh, how about you? What have you done in the last little bit?
All right. Well, let me just share real quick if I can figure out how to do that. New technologies. So, hopefully you guys can kind of see that. But so this is what I have done so far. It's the it's not quite as far as I was hoping to be. But what I'm planning on finishing tonight is this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th panel. And then the 8th panel, like at some point would be good to get done. But that's where I was hoping to be, panel 8. And this weekend just was full of a lot of family stuff. And then there was a lot of, well, we can get into that with challenges. So,
yeah.
But yeah. Still making progress, getting closer. So
good. That's awesome. And we also have Pepper in the chats. So how's it going, Pepper?
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, Pepper.
So Scott, how about you? What have you gotten done in the last little bit?
Let me screen share here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So I just did a video on this app that we're using right now. Yesterday I was filming that and editing that and basically doing a tutorial on it. So if you're curious about this, how this whole thing works, I put together a tutorial on my channel. And basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get it so we can get this thing paid. If we do the paid version, we can get rid of the little the watermark there. And there's kind of a referral thing. So if you're thinking about signing up, I think you get like $10 off, and then we get a month free for every person that signs up. So hopefully we can do that. But then I've been working on the Comic Maker Toolkit, which is kind of the deluxe version of my starter kit. Just working on some of the images, so you can see these are some of the like sound effects and everything you get with it. There's going to be a lot more, but that's some of the stuff that I'm working on right now. And then I am working on like a sample story page, and I'm going to film the process of me creating this whole page, inking it and everything like that. And that's going to be, I'm going to use that for a number of different things. I'm going to use it for a course that I'm going to be doing on YouTube where I show basically how to create comics from start to finish. And then I'm also going to be using that as sample pieces for this toolkit that I'm making. So that's kind of what I've been working on. So
nice. And then like if people wanted just like a sneak preview of what that Comic Maker starter kit is like, do you have like, you know, another kind of cheaper option that they can kind of just test it out with, see if they want to, they dip their toes in and see if they're interested? Yeah,
you can get the Comic Maker starter kit, which is sort of a scaled down version. But I don't like saying scaled down because it's really it's not that this is scaled down. It's the other one is just huge. But the starter kit has got tons of stuff in it, and it's free. And that'll kind of give you a taste for what's in there. And when you sign up for that, you also are signed up for the mailing list, and once this thing is available, then I'll let you know about it through the mailing list when the big one comes out. So
that's awesome, and that's going to be a really good asset for people and stuff. And those sound effects, by the way, just look awesome. So.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm gonna. This is gonna be the first of many products. I'm gonna start releasing some really cool comic book style fonts, and I've got a ton of ideas, all for comic book creators. Basically, I'm kind of switching the focus of my digital products to cater to comic creators, because I find that that's pretty much who follows me on YouTube, or mostly comic book creators. So
nice, that's awesome,
cool. And Squatchy is also in the chats as well.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome the way that works.
And that's cool that now we can show off our awesome communities. Like, I mean, their icons are pretty cool. Like Squatchy's icon's pretty gorgeous on that one. So it's nice to be able to show that off, you know. And
we'll be able to do a lot more too if we get the paid version, because we can actually, instead of like just screen sharing our stuff, we can actually throw up graphics and all kinds of cool stuff too. So hopefully we'll be in a position where we can do that. So
cool. So challenges for me, I don't know. End of the semester, all last week I got home no earlier than 8 or 9 p.m. every night, including Saturday. And now that's over, and so now I'm catching up and getting ready to leave. So we're rolling out of town 4 a.m. on Wednesday for a day or two, and then that's pretty much it. So yeah, just getting up, just getting lots of different stuff ready, and this was a challenge as well. Scott and I have been trying to figure this out for Art Track and Artcasters, and a lot of stuff behind the scenes as we're like vetting different platforms. And anyway, there's some very specific needs or whatever. I think that StreamYard is probably one of the better options. It's a touch pricey in my book, but
well, I mean, you can get it. This is free, which you're watching now, but you just got most people don't care about the little logo up there. We're kind of snobby about that, I guess. We kind of brand everything ourselves. So
I kind of want my own branding on there. I mean, I can do stuff like this just to give people an idea. I can do stuff like this and put stuff up. But when we try to do that our own, then it's going to ask to upgrade and whatever. And so at some point we're just testing some different things out. But so far I'm pretty happy with everything is on this.
Yeah, and I have to say the audio is so far pretty darn smooth compared to, Discord and some of the other options that we were trying out. So
Yeah, I was really excited about Discord, but Discord's audio was garbage.
yeah, it just kept blipping out and being weird. So.
Yeah. And the great thing about this is it's all web-based. Yeah, so if you got a browser, I mean, you're not going to have to, even before, I mean, most people had Google, and probably have Hangouts, so that wasn't too big of a deal. But some of the other options we looked at, they would have to download something, every time we have a guest on. But this one is just like we can send them a link, and if they've got a browser and a webcam, they're on.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is rad. It's very cool.
So, Josh, how about challenges for you?
Oh man, so to me the biggest challenge, it's kind of a fun challenge. So there was like an NCS meeting on Saturday where we all kind of went to the Hilbert Museum at Chapman University in Orange to kind of check out this awesome collection they have of original Mary Blairs, and so that was pretty amazing. And then the other, so that was cool. And then we ended up spending a lot of the day in Orange, just kind of walking around because my wife and I went with her son. And there's like a ton of like cool antique mall type stuff to like just kind of peruse and stuff like that. But for me, like the big challenge right now is just it's getting to that time of year. It's rush season at my work, like starts heavily in August and then just kind of continues nonstop until like pretty much like the end of November. And so even if we're getting out on time, we're putting in so much work when we're there. Just, kind of like the level of work where the entire time leading the team, I feel like we're never going to get this done. And I'm trying to kind of give people the fuel of like, we're going to get this done. And then we get it done, but it's exhausting. It's you're kind of stretching beyond what's possible. So keeping that mental space for creative when you are having to be creative just without second guessing for like 8 hours straight and probably longer than that in the next week or so. And then also freelance coming in, which is nice financially. And it's good work that I don't want to turn down from like, pretty consistent clients. But like that and finding those windows of time is just a real struggle. And for some reason, I think with the time of year, it's like the end of summer. So like mentally, I don't like heat after that long. Like at this point, I'm kind of over it with the heat. So just mentally, I'm not feeling on my game. And it constantly, the last like few weeks have been feeling like just playing catch up to the whole thing, So not ketchup and mustard to the whole thing. So, but you know what I mean? It's just one of those like kind of par for the course like type of challenges, but definitely mentally a very big challenge. This last span was like I just cannot find time, and So that trying to kind of stay motivated, keep from being frustrated, try to make those windows of time. That's the battle we're all in. But I felt it a lot this week.
Yeah.
But the Mary Blair stuff was cool. So if you guys are in California near Orange, you should check that out. It's pretty incredible stuff.
Is that a permanent exhibit?
No, it's temporary. It's like they are going to be spotlighting animation particularly, and so I guess they've had some like I think they started with an Ivan Earl exhibit, which I feel really annoyed that I didn't know about, but where they have like originals of like the Sleeping Beauty backgrounds and stuff. And this time it's like a lot of Mary Blair's concept work for like Peter Pan, and it's just really inspiring. Plus the cool thing was this guy who's directing a documentary on Mary Blair, like did a talk specifically for the NCS at the museum about like her life and stuff, which is super interesting. So now I want to open that wormhole and get into that because she sounds like she had a really crazy, interesting life. Anyhow, totally rambled. we need a timer for this very reason. So yeah, so I don't know. That was pretty much my struggles. What about you, Scott? What were your challenges?
Before Scott jumps in, we also have Carissa.
All right,
who
Carissa.
jumped in, and Victor is here as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, Scott, what challenges did you have in the last little bit?
Well, like Corey said, kind of dealing with trying the new streaming thing. And I don't want to give anyone the impression that this is very complicated, because really it's super user-friendly and everything. But, like what Corey does with the 48-hour art check, he's got all these other graphics, and there's just crazy stuff we're trying to figure out too. So, but all in all, it's pretty easy. We're just trying to do stuff that it's not meant to do, I think. In addition to that, I kind of had a major issue. So I was we were doing all these testings, and some of the testing we were trying to do something with OBS and Skype, and I had done something in Skype where I changed we were doing tests, and I changed things the way I was doing. Like I usually use Skype to capture my screen when I'm working on stuff. And so as part of this whole, this series of videos, I'm going to do these tutorials on YouTube. I've been wanting to film the process of me creating this page. And so I was recording the whole thing. And what I didn't realize was I changed a scene. So basically for about a day, I was recording a blank screen. And the purpose of this page that I'm working on isn't necessarily that I have a finished page, although maybe I can do something with it when it's done. But the purpose was to show the process. So basically, I had to go back and I had to redo that. It didn't take as long to redo it because I wasn't as precious, because I was just trying to get the point across. And because I had already done it, it was a little quicker. But still, it was kind of, when I found out that I had been doing all that stuff and it wasn't recording, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's like 10 times worse than drawing on the wrong layer.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of a major setback, but I also, the other thing was I didn't need to show the whole process, because once I show certain things, it gets repetitive. So I basically just needed to show part of what I was doing. So, because I was just going to either speed that up or pick and choose what scenes I wanted from the whole thing. And so I just kind of had to change the way I did it a little bit, but anyway, so that's, that was an issue.
Yeah.
That sucks. So plans, I don't know. Peter Palmietti is in the chats as well.
Hey, Peter.
As is Abe.
Yeah.
So, so plans for me, I am planning on getting more of this animation done. And so I've been, I guess I'll do this. I've been working on different like head turns and model sheets and just a ton of stuff to try to get everything to make sense and stuff. And so I'm just continuing to do that. As well as I am doing some client work that I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about, but some animation work that's pretty exciting. I gave them a bunch of different styles that I wanted them to go with, and they, I think, are leaning towards kind of this mid-century modern style of animation, which is, I've been wanting to play with that for a long time. So that'll be really fun. That kind of like
PPA kind of look.
Yeah, Casper the Friendly Ghost, PPA, kind of boing boing type style. So anyway, I like a lot of that stuff, and it's very versatile for animation, which is why they did it back then. But it works really well. It's got kind of this cool, kind of classy feel to it, I feel like. So anyway, I'm hoping that's what they pick, but I've got another meeting tomorrow with them to kind of solidify that. So
that's awesome. And that style also, it had like two purposes. One was like functionality, and then the other was a middle finger to Disney.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guys at UPA were like ex Disney guys who were just like, we're doing the un-Disney way. Like we're gonna do like you've got perspective lines, we're gonna tweak them and make them cool shapes, like because we can. We're designers too. So yeah, that's awesome. That's one of my favorite styles too.
Yeah, it's fun, and it had kind of like a heyday a few years ago, but I haven't seen a lot of animation done in that style. Like I feel like explainer videos all look exactly the same because they all use the same kind of vector stock and the same kind of whatever, and it just looks like, it's like the explainer videos today look like whiteboard videos did, like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to do an explainer video that's animated that is drastically different than what everybody else is doing because it's rad. So,
oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Anyway, Josh, what are your plans?
So I definitely want to try to finish. I definitely think I can at least get close to finished on the rough pencils for this page. And then just keep moving forward on quarterly stories, like because I also realize it's just that end chunk where there's a couple pages left is just like it goes at such a slow pace, and it feels even slower just because the whole process has been so slow that I just have to kind of retain patience and not. I definitely don't want like the last few pages to look like they're just jotted down really quick, but it is tempting, man, when you get to those last few. After like years into something, it's like it is tempting to just be like sketch really quick, the end,
Yeah.
So yeah, but definitely hoping to do that, and that's pretty much it by next time.
Cool. Scott, what are your plans?
So I'm gonna put together a quote for some client work, which could be a lot of work. So I'll probably be doing that. What else? I'm gonna continue to work on these comic tools and the videos, and I went to join this master. What do you call it? Mastermind group, which is just kind of basically a group where a bunch of creative professionals or whatever get together and they share ideas and things like that. And I went to pay for it, and I read the terms and services. And I think it's like a standard through whatever their software they're using or whatever platform they're using. But there was a lot of weird like work for hire stuff in there, and something that says anything you post that they co-own. And so I wrote them back and said, yeah, I'm not down with that. So I'll have to see what they say, because I kind of want to join this mastermind group, but I did not like that agreement. So if I can get that straightened up, I'll be doing that. But yeah, other than that, just tons of stuff.
Sorry. So can you explain what you mean by a mastermind group? Like, are you joining a group of evil villains, or? I
wish. No. That's mastermind is kind of what they call it. Again, it's sort of. It's something that it's like somebody has created. It's sort of a course, but it's also you meet every week. There's a private Facebook group, but they're mostly people that are professionals working in the industry. Some of them who I have a lot of respect for. So it's just kind of either some of it might be critiques or helping each other with projects or advice or anything like that type of thing.
So I think a lot of people in the chats are kind of along my thinking on this. I think you should sell it as though it is joining a group of evil masterminds, because it fits the branding.
Yeah, maybe I can infiltrate it and try to turn it into.
You joined the League of Cliche Evil Supervillains. I thought it was just a T-shirt. I didn't realize it was a real thing. I love it. All right.
So Pepper says that this could be considered a mastermind group.
Yeah, in a way. And a lot of it, a lot of the reason why one of the major things people might sign up for is accountability.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't really have that issue because I got you guys, and I'm also pretty, I'm pretty good at staying on task. So, so that's not really the reason why I'm joining in particular, but that's a major reason why a lot of people would.
Nice.
Cool.
I think that's a beneficial thing. I mean, that's part of why I'm in the NCS. It's like you want to be among people who, like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, and you never want to be the most successful in the room. Like, one of the things that was cool, even the thing I did this week, it was cool because it's like we go into this museum, and it's like we're treated really nicely because we're the NCS. But I realized the curator's treating us really nicely because I'm standing next to the creator of Family Circus. That's why they're kind of geeked out. It's like there's different levels, and it's always good to, like, I think, be humbled around people because there's
I assume it's the son of the creator of Family Circus, because Bill Keene's no longer still alive, is he?
Let's see. I don't remember. Problem is I don't even remember.
I think his son, because it's the characters' names are actually his family. So I think, is it Jeff, who's the Jeffrey character was based on?
Yeah, it was Jeff. Yeah, who's much like, I'm sorry, when you said son, I was thinking like a young man, and then I
no.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
so should we jump into our topic today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We can do a number of topics. We'll take some suggestions from the chat. But I recently had a group of students ask me how to do a 48-hour art check because they were going to start doing one in, is it August, I think? I can't remember exactly when they're going to start. But I thought that might be a good topic to revisit, and we could also talk technology as well. And then if anybody wants in the chats to bring anything up, we can kind of hit those. So
yeah, if we have time too, there's somebody who asked me some pricing advice on Facebook a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And so I can touch on that if we have time to fill at the end.
Oh, I would love that because I'm yeah, pricing is interesting. I have so I'd like to talk pricing as well, because I always like to pick people's brains on how they do it and stuff like that. So so real quick, 48-hour art check for those of you that are new-ish. And I do recognize a couple new people to the art check, is basically that you have somebody that you are choosing to be accountable to, and you check in every other day or a couple times a week. We've seen people do it once a week. Twice a week seems to work really well. We did about 150 episodes 3 times a week, and it was good. So basically, you're going to go over 3 things, which you just saw us do, and you're going to go to what you've accomplished since last you met. And usually that should be based on what you planned to accomplish. So what did you do? What was challenging about that? And challenging doesn't necessarily mean bad. Challenging can be just time consuming or distracting or whatever. Like today, we talked about some things that weren't necessarily like hard. It was just, like time consuming stuff. And then you talk about your plans for that. If you stick to 30 seconds a piece, then you can get that done in under 10 minutes. And that's not something that Josh and I have done often, but we're talkers. And so it can be something, just a real quick 10, 15 minute check-in every couple days. And it is super good. So that's kind of the gist of the 48-hour art check. Kayla is one of the people that I was talking to, and she's saying that she's starting it on August 7th. So we'll kind of watch out for her group doing a 48-hour art check as well. I'm excited to see kind of what they do with it and all that. So, and then Pepper's asking if the art check can be formatted differently than the way that you guys do it. And I'd say absolutely. you can format it kind of however you want. The basic idea is that you have somebody else that you are accountable to, and you're setting goals that you can accomplish within a 48-hour period.
Yeah.
And that you're acknowledging that life gets in the way, and that's not an excuse to not produce anything. And it's really helpful. Those three things, I think you could format it, but I think those three things are pretty essential to it. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like as long as you're kind of sticking to those basic three questions, whatever way you want to go about it. But those three, what did you do? What was challenging? What are your plans moving forward? As Carissa just nicely typed for us. Those are really good questions. And I think you can even try different questions, but I think for it to really have full effect, those are the things that, well, weirdly enough, we've been pretty thankful for that structure since the beginning, because that's probably the best thing we hit on. Lots changed since when we first started it, but the one thing that stayed consistent is that. And I think there's a lot of psychological reasons for artists that those key things are so important.
Yeah.
And for accountability in general, I think that those key things are important, because you're setting actionable goals, you're supporting, and then you're also kind of venting. And like those are three key elements to really kind of retaining your sanity and your productivity, I think, in art. So,
and it's good to hear somebody express challenges that you can relate to, or that might be more than what you're challenged with, and still get stuff done. And so I like that concept of like, sometimes I'll hear, Josh, and he's got like 2 hours worth of commuting every day, and it's in the rush season at his work. And so, he's working like overtime, and he's still getting pages done. And that's when I'm like, oh, my half-mile commute where I can sometimes walk it in 10 minutes. Maybe I've got more time than I think, and that type of thing. But also, I've seen where it's super helpful, where I'm just like buried and in a slump and not feeling it. And then Josh or Scott is also buried or in a slump and not feeling it. And by the end of the art check, I'm energized, I'm ready to go. And so it can be reinvigorating as well.
yeah.
For a number of reasons.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, even though it's in the name 48-hour art check, I mean, I don't know that that's even necessarily, I mean, I think you could do it every week too. In the beginning, we had people do that. And obviously I'm an example of that. I only usually do it on Mondays. So, I mean, it's great if you can do it every 48 hours, but if you think that's too much, maybe start off by doing it every week.
Yeah, and I think just having a set time that you commit to and doing it consistently.
Yeah, set time is definitely, I would say that's especially because you're working with other people, that it's always good to have a set time that you get together.
But I mean, we modified it too. Like initially we were doing 3 times a week, and we both found that like the third day was usually a throwaway episode anyway. Because we were just both like, okay, we did the art, we did, we know the check thing, but like, do we really need to do a topic? Because, and we realized like, that's not great content for everybody if it's just like, here's the art check and that's it. So, we cut down to 2 a week. So,
two live, but we still tend to send each other progress reports, just on like a Facebook chat or whatever.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It doesn't even have to be live, although I think the live element helps a lot. And also for us, it would be cool to see other people kind of pick up the mantle and kind of do it too, because I think they'll see results.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been a couple people that have done variations on it, and everybody's had good things to say. So as far as the technology side of things, it literally could be as easy as just a phone call, or something like that. Are you? Yeah. So you're pointing at the logo. You can also use something like what we're using, and there is a link that I will be posting that if you want to help us from an affiliate standpoint with StreamYard, then you can click on that link that I will post afterwards because I didn't think it through and have it in the description right now. But anyway, so the idea is that you don't have to do like this really polished production. And so you don't have to, but if you want to, like the tools, even since like we started doing this a year plus ago, have gotten significantly better.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeing right now is you're seeing us use a tool called StreamYard, which is really awesome. And this is the free version of it. And so that's why you get the logo that Josh is pointing at. And it does a lot of what you need it to do. And it's pretty slick. I mean, even being able to, pull stuff up like this. And so, there's a lot. I was using a program called OBS. And OBS I still really like for a number of reasons. But it is streaming from your computer. And so what I had to do is I had to have to capture something and then stream that thing. And so any video service would work. I've used Zoom at work a lot, just ZOOM. It's probably the most robust and like rock solid video chat out there. I really like Zoom for a lot of reasons. It just works, but the downside is that you have to download and install Zoom on your computer, and so that's not super ideal for like the art casters where you two are having guests on and things like that. Google Hangouts was great and is now either going away or I'm still a little confused on. They were very unclear on the announcement, so I don't know if that's
going to August 1st. So
okay, so we'll see what's happening with that. And so those are just some of the options. And if you just look up like streaming, video chat, basically anything that you can do to get to a thing. Restream.io is a super good one. I really like Restream.io because you have one stream that can then be broadcast into multiple places, including Facebook and Periscope and YouTube and Twitch and Mixer and and a lot of stuff like that. And so it's like one stream, multiple platforms. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I don't know, Scott, if you want to mention anything else about any of the tech before we move on to pricing.
No, I mean, again, I think the reason because I had seen StreamYard and I did look at the pricing and it did seem if you're doing this as a professional thing, it's not bad. But for like art casters, we're not making any money off of it or anything. So the $20 a month is like, I mean, it seems a little pricey for that. But then I found out that you don't necessarily need it. I didn't know that there was a free option. So once Corey kind of showed it to me again, and I looked at that, and then when I found out how easy it was, I mean, because that's one of the reasons why I really liked Hangouts. It was just super simple, and this is even easier than Hangouts, and it does, even the free version does more. Like right now, I'm just looking up at I don't believe Hangouts did this, but it's got a little thing live that tells how long we've been going live. Because one of the things with the Artcasters is we try to keep it around an hour and a half. This will kind of give us a better understanding. It also, I mean, YouTube will tell you like how many people are watching. That does that. Like basically when we do Artcasters, we have to have the YouTube window open as well so we can see the chat. With this, we just open StreamYard. All the chat comes in here. And like I said, you can stream up to, I think I heard like 30 different places. I don't know of 30 different places, but even if we want to stream live here and live on YouTube or on Facebook, we can do that. We can stream to Twitch, and we can set it all that stuff up so we can stream to all the different places if we wanted to at the same time. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it does a bunch of stuff. I mean, the only thing, it is a startup, so sometimes just like you could go the way of Meerkat, and I think Periscope may still be around because it does allow you to stream to Periscope. But I don't
Periscope
hear
is
much.
around because it got bought out by Twitter.
Okay. So you never know. I mean, when you're dealing with sort of a new platform, but I mean, it's just basically, I think it's fairly new. It's still in beta and everything, and they're rolling out new. Because I watched an older tutorial, and it has features now that weren't in that old tutorial. So they're adding new things to it. At least right now, the free version, there aren't any limits on it other than you're going to get that watermark and stuff. It does say that at a later date, they may limit those free things, but I think that'll be a while off. I think the whole idea is to get people using it.
Yeah.
And in order to get people using something, they gotta offer it for free. So at least for right now, I mean, it seems like a great thing. We tried OBS. There's another solution using OBS and Skype. Of course, a lot of people have Skype, but not everyone has Skype.
Yeah.
Like I had it, but I don't use it, so I had to upgrade it and all that stuff. And there is some setup issues that I had that wasn't as easy as what it was showing. But as far as quality wise, it looked like that solution was really high quality. But this just is super simple. It's got basically just tons of features. Not tons, but basically all the features you want, I think, compared to like Hangouts. And it baffles me that, that Google didn't really offer a replacement. They said you could use they said use, I forgot what they told you to use, but it was basically nothing like Hangouts. It was basically, if you just wanted to go live yourself, you couldn't have chat, you couldn't have other people on and everything like that. So, but I mean, I still use OBS for like when I do my live streams and everything like that. I don't know if it would make sense to use StreamYard for that or not. But yeah, there's a few different options. I just think this is the easiest way, especially like you guys said, getting guests on and everything. It's just a matter of sending them a link and they're on.
Yeah, and I think that ties into the 48-hour art check too, because like the key thing with whatever way you set up a stream, you want it to be, especially at the beginning, you want it to be as simple as possible. And so like ease of use is a huge thing. If you have something that's overly complicated, it's going to be time consuming to do and commit to. And so you want to take away whatever hurdles are going to get you from showing up and doing the art check. And like, that's the key thing. Like part of how we've been able to sustain it is Corey is really good at like automating things so that basically like we go and it's automated and there's no editing afterwards. And so it's sustainable in that way.
I'll just highly recommend that if you want to use your art check as a content thing, do live streaming. Don't do it so that you edit it later, because it is just going to bog you down so much. Yeah. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did was not, one of the two of us end up spending, 3 hours every time we get on, like editing it and tweaking it and adding titles and that type of stuff. And so if you can do it live, I'd recommend it. And along those lines, there's a new one of these that's come out that I'm super envious of, but this is this is a Stream Deck, and Stream Decks are amazing for this. It'll hook right into OBS, and basically you can load up all kinds of different options. And so that's how I've automated the show up until this point. The first 159 episodes was that. Kayla's asking if I can still play the animation at the beginning by using StreamYard. Sort of. Let me show you what I've found out so far, given that this is the first actual time I've gone live with this. So basically it would be something like this. So let me find this and turn this on. All right. And let me pause that and come back. Okay. So if I had this loaded up prior to the show, I just basically kind of share my screen, and then do this. Here it is. And then you just play the video. So it's not. So it's not as ideal as what I had before.
Could you do that full screen? Because there's a full screen option to share full screen. Let me see if I think I have controls here. So if I do that right now, it's just me, right? You guys see that?
Yeah.
You had it. I think you had it. No, what did you have? I don't know. You had a different orientation than
yeah.
that.
It was like, let me. So if I go like this, let me show you what I'm seeing here. So this is actually what I'm seeing on StreamYard. But you can also just click this button and it just goes full screen.
Okay.
And so you can have kind of like the chat reactions, or just go full screen, or just have it kind of picture in picture, and then you can jump back to the 3. And so, Carissa's asking, is that a Naruto run? And it is. Well spotted. So yeah. So, and then Victor's asking, will the Stream Deck work on StreamYard? To my knowledge, no. But StreamYard is still in beta, and so I don't know. What would work is if they were to add key functionality to these windows down at the bottom, so that you could like click on these different things and have them, if there were hotkeys to this, then you could assign hotkeys to your Stream Deck and then be able to do it that way. It's not too bad with the mouse. It's been kind of fine that way. So I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's some trade-offs for sure. But I don't know, it's pretty slick for kind of like a plug and play thing, because if somebody were to try to do what I've done in OBS, I don't know how to say this without bragging, but I'm pretty good at stuff like that, and it took me about a week of evenings to kind of set that up correctly, and then over the course of the next several months, like Josh and I kind of tweaked it and changed things, and I redid animations and stuff like that. So just to give you guys an idea, I have a Stream Deck sitting here that I've had for a while, and because I am not like Corey, it's just sitting there right now collecting dust, because I haven't had the time to learn it and everything. So yeah, and it's I don't know. One of these days I need to do a tutorial on it, because
that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's not just for streaming though. Yeah, I mean you can do it for anything, and so it automates anything. So like, I don't know how to, but I mean you can make it do anything. So
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. So anyway, yeah. So should we? Does anybody in the chat have any other questions? I don't know that we have a lot of answers at this point, but any other? So Kayla says that the audio didn't come through on the animation. I think there's a button that I have to press.
Yeah.
To make the audio come through when I first do screen sharing, because I think it will go through, but there's like by default it doesn't.
Yeah, when you tested in the beginning before we went live, I did hear the audio.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of figure that out and kind of figure out a new format and stuff. And I think that's one of the things to kind of keep in mind as a takeaway too. If you start like the 48-hour art check or you start streaming, it's like you don't actually need perfection at the beginning. Half the time, by just getting your hands dirty, you'll learn. Which we're kind of doing on air a little bit.
Yeah, I thought this would be kind of an interesting test, just to, instead of spending 2 weeks figuring out, we'll just figure it out live, and everybody can watch me flounder and click on the wrong buttons and stuff. So
I love it.
Yeah. I just checked. I think you guys probably should have heard that first chord on the guitar just now. So
yes, we did.
Yeah. So if nobody else has any questions on that, I think I'd love to jump into a few minutes on pricing, and that might be a longer episode for another time, or a series of episodes, because there is a lot
Yeah.
to say about that, and I am still not even completely comfortable to where I feel like I know exactly how I want to price things. So I'm always curious. Carissa says just always charge, is that 9 million?
I'm
9
so bad at
billion?
math, I can't even. I think that's beyond 9 million. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing I didn't want to get too into the weeds with it. It's just, as I asked for pricing advice from someone, and I gave like relatively low pricing advice. I was like, this is the lowest you should quote for this job. And then the person kind of reconfirmed what they were going to quote before having the conversation with me and proceeded to justify their quote. And it was just this weird back and forth of me kind of breaking down what they were quoting, explaining that they'd be making less than minimum wage. In fact, it would kind of border on like slave labor, and just kind of the person ending with, well, thank you, thanks for the tips. But I guarantee that person went and quoted what they were going to quote before talking to me, and they're going to get, like, one thing I'd say for just pricing conversations and stuff like that is, really, like, don't undervalue yourself. And if it gets to the point, I think as artists, where we're like quoting a price that's going to have us working for far under like your state's minimum wage, for just hours, for like dollars an hour, I honestly, like, really reassess like what that's worth to you, because once again, I think, 9 times out of 10 you'd be way better served working on your own personal properties where you're going to own everything outright than working for somebody for practically free. And like it's one thing to say it, it's another to kind of actually digest it. And I know it's hard when you're like hungry for work, or if the project sounds really exciting, but just really, like, I don't know, I was a little surprised by it, but not super surprised by it. But if you also find yourself like justifying your pricing, when you talk to pros, like you might not be pricing right. Like, if you have to go, it's this low, but that's because of this, and there's this reason. Like, don't be that person. Like that. Let the bad client do that.
Yeah, and so a couple things that you bring up that I want to just kind of pull out for anyone who's starting out on pricing. One is, you said that if you break it down, and I want to go more into that. I think what you mean by that is, if you estimate this is going to take me 10 hours, and you're like, oh man, $100 is a lot of money to ask for that. Well, it's like, okay, you'd be making $10 an hour, right? If it takes you 10 hours. And usually your estimation of time doesn't include a number of things. And so you're usually off.
Yeah.
So I recommend people do, like, take your estimate of how much time you think it's going to take you and multiply it by 1.5 at least.
Yep.
If not double
Especially
it.
when you're starting, because you don't have a proper gauge.
Yeah. But then beyond that, a lot of people, they'll go in and they'll say, I'm going to do a logo for like $30. And it's like, okay, how long is it going to take you to meet with that client and talk to them and write the emails and actually design the logo that they approve? And how many iterations are you including and all that? And so all of a sudden you did $30 and it took you 30 hours to do, and you made $1 an hour. Right? But you're thinking, but I'm just a student, or I'm just a beginner, or I'm right out of school, or I didn't go to school, or whatever excuse that you have to like devalue your work. What you need to understand is two things. One is either your work has value, or this client is trying to take advantage of you. And so neither of those situations should be undervalued. And so if somebody's coming to you and trying to, they're an easy mark, because they're a student, or they're a beginner, or they're whatever, right? And so they start trying to get you to feel bad about charging a lot of money for things. you don't want that client anyway. Just do what Josh said and do your own work. And so the other thing that I wanted to bring up just really quickly is I think that a lot of people are scared of losing the job if they charge too much or if they say the wrong thing or whatever. And I have this to say about that. Some jobs you want to lose because they're going to be a nightmare. And the other thing is that if like a little slip up of verbiage or something is something that somebody uses against you, that's not going to be a good client. And so if you're just open and honest with people and, you explain your process and things like that, there's value to your process. And so don't devalue the fact that you sketch before you jump into the computer, and that takes time.
Yeah.
That you have to think about things for a while to like let them process and get a good idea, because there's all of that is adding value to the project. And so it's not like a shop where you're like, okay, I'm actually moving the pen tool right now, so this is billable hours or whatever. It's much different than that. And so coming at it from a value standpoint rather than from an hourly standpoint is a really good thing to do. But using hourly as a baseline of making sure that you're not losing your shirt is really good, because the best project in the world that you're making 75 cents an hour on, you will absolutely hate it and regret it and feel used and horrible about it, no matter how fun it is or how high profile it is or whatever.
Yeah. And just real quick, Josh, to what you were saying earlier, where the person kind of didn't take your advice. Sometimes you just have to learn things the hard way. I mean, once you start doing that, you actually figure, this is a nightmare client. They're making me redo all this stuff. I'm only making, like Corey said, 75 cents an hour.
Yeah.
You'll learn your lesson, If you don't listen to the advice in the beginning, you'll learn your lesson later.
Or you won't, and you'll be one of those Fiverr artists.
Yeah. And during the conversation, the person was saying, well, I'm going to be using outsourcing, and the quote they were offering, I was like, have you done outsourcing? Like first off, like the hours that you have to spend to set up a good outsourcing arrangement is insane. The amount of clarity that you need in communication to have effective outsourcing is insane. So on the domestic end, the export part of the art becomes very problematic and time consuming. The other thing to keep in mind is like there are quotes out there that are domestic that if I were to try to get that quote from somebody in China, they would laugh at it. Like, and so there are like, there's this fantasy of the perfect, like everything can be outsourced. And what I think like this person hadn't really assessed is like, even if you outsourced mass elements of this, like you got to realize like outsourced animation like is a really good example of that. Like, if you look at one of those blockbuster films, I don't know, like the one with the Minions or whatever, where like the majority of that animation is outsourced. It's still like millions of dollars to make a movie like that. And millions of resources and iterations to make a movie like that. It's not like it doesn't cost money just because it's out of country. And so like the thing that, like I said, if you are offered, hey, come up with a quote, don't shoot yourself in the foot from the get-go. Don't be the bad client for your client. Tell the client what you're worth and see if they'll meet you there. Like, and this particular scenario was, I guess, why I wanted to bring it up was it wasn't the client saying the ridiculous quote. It was the artist. And that to me is really problematic, because if you're not educating the client on what you're going to need to be able to stay motivated and do really good work for that client, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting that client. And so like, you know, like Scott said, sometimes people just have to learn the hard way. I know that I've signed up for a job that I quoted pretty fairly, but I literally, like, there's a reason that I don't do professional comics that often, because the rate is so low that even at a fair rate for that industry, I haven't found that it was worth my while.
Yeah.
And not everybody is in that boat, but the point being, just take people's advice. If you're saying like, hey, do you think this person's trying to rip me off? Like they're saying this, they're offering all this, like good example, like a timeshare, right? Like you sit through is it a timeshare? I think it is. Yeah. So you sit through one of those
a free steak dinner,
and it sounds all compelling, and they're giving you free steak dinner and taking you to like free shows in Las Vegas, and you ask somebody's advice, should I get a timeshare? And 98% of the people who have timeshares are going to tell you, no, don't get the timeshare. It's a ripoff. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. And this is exactly that kind of scenario where it's like, as artists, we have to be aware of our own cognitive bias. If you want it to be true that you can do something under budget and it's an unrealistic budget, we're not in a world where you just wish upon like the freelance star and you're given more time. Like time is a limited resource. So you need your time to be compensated so that you can keep food in your mouth and you can make good work for your client. So like, it's a rant, but it got me kind of fueled up because once again, I wasn't even suggesting they would quote high. I was like, this is the absolute lowest.
Right.
To quote. Once again,
and I don't know why people ask people's opinion if they're not open to, like, why don't ask me if you're going to argue with my answer.
Yeah.
I'm fine with people asking me stuff and disagreeing or even asking me stuff and asking qualifying questions or trying to understand better, or whatever. But if you've predetermined what you're going to do and you're looking for validation, just talk to your mom, because wasting professionals' time on that is stupid. Philip has an interesting scenario here that I think is very, very common. And there's I don't want to say that there's an easy answer to it because it is a little bit time consuming to set up. But I think it's really important to talk about. So Philip Chandler says, where I run into a problem is when the client keeps changing his mind after we establish a price, and then the project takes twice as long, which I think is super common, right? Yeah. What were you going to say, Scott?
I said that's scope creep.
Yeah, scope creep, right? Project creep, scope creep. There's a couple.
Work that into the contract that they have only so many revisions.
Yes, and really specify and clarify in that contract and in that initial written agreement. You're not making this verbally, because if you are, good luck to you, sir. But make it in writing. Make sure you clarify what the objective you're being hired to execute is. If that objective changes, that's a different job.
And that document is called a creative brief.
Yeah.
And there are a number of different formats for the creative brief, but generally speaking, you want to talk about what the reason is that you're doing something, who the target audience is that you're speaking to, what it is that you're saying, and how you're saying it. So you kind of have basically you have, what are the objectives? Who's the target? What do you want the target to do, think, feel, and what do you want the voice to sound like? And if you nail that down in a creative brief, then if all of a sudden they're like, I know in the beginning I said that I wanted soccer moms with 2 incomes and blah, 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 but I actually want to go with 13-year-old punk rockers, then that, because you have a creative brief, you can say, great, that's fantastic. Let's do that. I will put together a new creative brief and I'll get you a change order on how much it's going to cost you to make this change, since we had an agreement in writing prior to this. Then the contract is in addition to the creative brief. The contract has what Josh and Scott are talking about, the number of revisions. And so you build your contract with milestones. So for example, if I'm doing an animation for somebody, then I say, there's the initial concept, then there's the script, then there's the sketches, then there's the storyboard, then there's the animatic, then there's the rough animation, and then there's the final animation. Those are the milestones that I go through when I do an animation for somebody. Those milestones are tied to payments and time. And so I say, before you sign off on this milestone, say it's the animatic or something, before you sign off on that, you have up to 3 revisions.
Yeah.
But once you sign off on that, we've gone over that wall, we've passed that milestone. Any changes retroactively to stuff cost money. So, and a 4th revision costs money.
And in that case,
it's good to specify the kind of revision, because there's a misunderstanding of what a revision is to a lot of the average person. And keep in mind, like, this also really protects the client, because if the client tells you, I want a 3/4 perspective shot of a stadium during the Super Bowl with an entire crowd scene in full detail, and they spell that out and that's in your brief, and you give them like a close-up of one person in the audience at that stadium in the Super Bowl, you've just completely not fulfilled that brief. And most of the time, your own contract's going to hold you to having to revise it at no cost to the client because you didn't deliver what they asked. So it's a two-way street. It protects the client and protects you. Now, if the client suddenly goes, I said a 3/4 perspective shot, now I'd actually like it just straight on from the field, right? Now you're talking about, imagine if you didn't write that into your contract. You were talking about having to redraw a crowd scene that could potentially take weeks to draft. Like, it could take like months to execute. So if you didn't spell that out in a contract, you could be in a scenario where you are now like, it's almost like modern slavery, where you're basically beholden to this client to just do revision. And if you didn't specify what the revision is, what's considered a revision, specify that if it fulfills the brief and there's a change that's not like a minor color change or a minor drawing change, like that kind of thing, then it goes into not a revision, but a new brief. Like if right. You didn't spell that out, you could be in deep water. And so it's a good thing. It's a good thing for both people to have that in writing. And yeah. I've seen clients get screwed by it too, where they didn't have a contract. They hire an artist. The artist delivers something that they didn't ask for, and they're in a crap out situation because they don't have a lot of recourse because there were no written documentation of it. So that's also how you sell it to a client when you're giving them a contract. But,
yeah.
Sorry, I rambled, but
no, I liked it. Scott, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, usually, I don't bill by the hour, and I don't know how you guys do it, but I will spell out usually in the contract that if it goes over and beyond, or if they, like you said, if we do fulfill one part of that contract and they want to go back after they've already okayed it and then make changes, then I'll say something in there that'll be billed at $100 an hour or whatever.
Exactly.
But usually you never really want to bill by the hour unless in my case, I usually do spell that out as far as hourly for revisions. So.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff. We can get into, like, there's ways you can work into your contract that if a payment is late beyond a certain period, it'll start billing at a certain percentage. So you're making a profit on their lateness, which, by the way, if you feel like that's skeezy, that's just business. Like, if you owe me money and it's gone over 30 days, then, and I'm like, I don't know, like a hospital, I'm going to start charging interest.
Yeah.
Because you owe me money. And it's the same with your own work as a contractor. So it's like, it's good to, like I said, you don't want to be like the letter of the law jerk with clients, because it's the easiest way to lose clients. Imagine a letter of the law client. That's an easy way to lose vendors, right? But the point being, like, you still want that law to fall back on if somebody's really crossing the line. Like, most of us don't mind making minor changes to art if it's not super laborious and it because we want our client to be happy.
Yeah, and usually, and I'll do that a lot. I'll say, well, we're kind of over our agreement,
Yeah.
But I'll say, I'm not going to charge you for this, but that's at my discretion.
Yeah.
And the client does appreciate that. And once you say that, then they realize, oh, okay, we're kind of getting, we've got to, maybe I need to pull back a little bit or whatever, because.
Yeah. Or meet with like the 4 people I need to meet with to get the for sure statement of what we want, you know? Because that's one of the tough things. And that's one of the great things when money's on the line, suddenly people actually get a little more clarity on what they're hiring you to do. And so that's a good thing to know. Like when they're hiring you, there is money on the line.
Sometimes,
for both parties.
Sometimes dealing with creatives is more fun than what they normally do in their day job.
Yeah.
And so it's fun for them to engage in the creative process. And so if they don't understand that they're wasting your time, then to them it's like, cool, we're doing this thing where we're playing and we're doing all the, and it's like, look at all these fun revisions. I'm a part of the process and whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
if you
fun with this, so you must too, right?
Right. Another thing I would highly recommend when it comes to all of this, and this we've kind of shifted from pricing to contracts, but is when you have a meeting with someone, take notes in the meeting and email those notes to everyone after the meeting, because your brain will do this thing. Everybody's brain will do this thing where it gives you the feeling that you understand what's going on and that you're all on the same page. And so, if somebody says, man, I really want that thing to pop, like there's
Make it pop.
a billion different ways to do that, because that's not actually a thing. Or they give you a vague term like, without any visual examples, like I want it to be really hip, or whatever. And you're like, okay, cool. So you have an idea of what's hip, and then they have an idea of what's hip, and then everybody in the room. And so at the end of it, if you email out like, to everyone, hey, thanks for meeting with me today. Just as a recap, this is what I got out of this meeting. Please, please come back with any corrections or changes or additions based on this, so that we're all on the same page. People will see that. And 2 things will happen. One thing is that they're like, oh, this isn't just some like fly by the night, like weirdo artist guy. This is like a business person. The other thing that will happen is they will recount your notes, and they'll be like, oh wait, no, I didn't mean that. Like I didn't, what you took from what I said is different than what I meant. Or we forgot to mention that I actually want like this thing before this other thing or whatever. So you really start to solidify the details of that.
Yeah, and that's where the value of asking a ton of questions when you're at that initial state, before you come up with a contract or drafted anything like a brief, you need to have a conversation with the client where you're asking key questions, like just basic stuff: who, what, when, where, why. And what's surprising to a lot of early creatives is a lot of the time somebody will hire you and say, I want to make a kid's book. And they don't know the format. They don't know the resolution they need. They don't know the printer. They don't know the page count. They don't know the rule of 4s, like that you need to make books and signatures of 4. So they've written a 20 or a 19-page book, and you as the designer or illustrator have to be the person to step in and say, there's a rule of 4s in printing. Right. So you're going to need signatures of 4. So you have your book spaced out. You need to add an additional page. What would you like on that additional page? Things like when they're saying cool, you have to ask, what's cool to you? What do you view as cool? Like it's a harder conversation than just, yeah, okay, great, I'm going to make you something cool. Because once again, like, there's a lot of people out there who might think the Jonas Brothers are super cool. And if you tell me to make something cool thinking it's the Jonas Brothers and I give you the Clash, you may not be happy about that. And so it's having conversations where you're clarifying, do you mean the Jonas Brothers or the Clash? Like, what do you mean by cool? Those are good questions to kind of get into and stuff. And we can probably go on about this forever, but it's super important to like, and once again, with yourself, ask those questions. Like we tying back into the quote thing, like if you're not asking yourself like, okay, I'm going to quote 10 grand for this job, and you're like, $10,000 is a lot of money. That's great. But then you do the math of what that would break down to hourly, and you're making 75 cents an hour. 10 grand is not good money in that scenario, you know?
Right.
75 cents an hour, especially let's say, and then you're not taking into account where you live. Like if you live in LA, you cannot live in LA on 75 cents an hour. So therefore, just by that little process of asking questions, you'll go, oh, I literally can't do this job. I can't. Like, and so yeah, asking a lot of questions like of yourself and of your client are going to help you come up with better pricing arrangements for yourself and for your client, you know? Because like, once again, maybe they're the person who wants to go get fine dining and needs to have a conversation about like, hey, maybe your budget's more like heading to this place instead, because this is a fine dining place, and like maybe we should talk hamburgers instead of steak, you know? That's just commerce, man. So
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Stuff.
Yeah, I think we could talk for a long time about pricing, but
probably too long.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Anyway, I'm curious on what everybody thinks about the format. I know some people have kind of weighed in, but as you guys have been watching, yay, nay, any technical issues like audio or video issues that have kind of come through or been problematic. And while I think there's probably like a 30-second delay. So I will pull up this comment where I agree that I just have Josh do background singing if the audio doesn't work. So I'll just have Josh do that. Squatchy did ask a question. Can you screenshot in StreamYard like if you're doing a live drawing? So you can't screenshot, but you can share a screen. And so I just wanted to show this. And so if I do,
well, if you're doing like traditional drawing, if you just aim your webcam at it, you could do it. Is that what you're asking? Or if you're drawing on your screen, then you can screenshot it. So I would say yes, right?
Yeah. So what you're seeing here would be you can show kind of anything that is going on your computer. And then what Scott's saying is if you're drawing traditionally, then instead of just pointing your webcam at your face, you would point your webcam at your drawing. And so either one of those would work. This is the rigged situation here with this. And so wherever I move this, it rotates that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I kind of messed it up a little bit, but I don't know. I'll just show you. Let me show you this really fast, just so you guys get an idea of how stupid I was when I designed this.
I feel like, Corey, at some point you're going to get so good at After Effects that it's going to become sentient. And at some point it's going to be asking, am I turning my head or is Corey?
Yeah. So I can't. I'll just show you one of these. Let's. This is just the mouth, and so if you see here, these are all of the shapes that are just in the mouth, and then if you look at like the head itself, those are all of the shapes, and each one of these is its own path that animates specifically, each time. So that's why it took so long, is because I was really stupid and I made it too complex. And I'm not good at simplifying things, but this is probably the ugliest vector I've ever produced from like a cleanup standpoint. So, but anyway, it's kind of fun. So you can kind of see how it shape tweens and whatever, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so Squatchy, that would be an example. And I can also do this and make it go full screen like that, or show it like that, or do kind of like a picture in picture with, nope, I don't know why it showed Scott and not me, but anyway, so there's a lot of different ways to kind of show stuff. So I like that. Let me just check the chat right before we go. Ronnie says that he really likes it. So, and Squatchy has a similar problem to what I have, where my brain doesn't come up with the right words all the time. So anyway, yeah. So I will right now. It wouldn't let me add this comment to the thread. I'm guessing because it's a link, but yeah, it's airing out. I will add a reference link, an affiliate link to StreamYard. If anybody's interested and you want to get the free version, use this link. That'll be awesome. You'll get the free version, be able to do everything that you've seen us do today. And if you want to get the paid version, which adds the ability to remove their branding and do all kinds of different branding yourself, like you can come on and you can put in like overlays and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Then that's 20-ish. It's like $20 a month if you pay for the year. It's $25 if you pay by month. And if you do that with our link, then we get like a free month, I think, for everybody that signs up for that or whatever. So if you're doing it, you might as well kick it back to us. If you're not doing it and you want to use the free one, that's cool. That's what we're going to do for a little bit as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes from there. But yeah. So anything else before we close out here?
No, I mean, I'm impressed by what you guys have managed to kind of work out with StreamYard, and it's pretty cool. It's going to be fun to see what we can do. Where did Corey go?
Sorry, I slid off because I need to get to my keyboard because I just forgot to do something.
Wait. Can you turn towards Corey too at the same time, and maybe we can both look and be like, where did Corey?
I can't tell because I'm not looking at my camera. Oh, I'm looking the wrong way.
It's kind of fun because we can totally do like conversations like this, and it's going to look like we're talking to each other.
Yeah, I think you can have up to like 6 people on, so you can't quite do Brady Bunch, but you can do about 6. You can do.
I kind of wanted to experiment with that today. I don't know if we've got.
And with the pro version, you can have more than 6 people, but some of those people have to be in a queue. They can't all be on at the same time. So you can. That's the thing. Like we can allow people to go in and out. Like whoever controls the broadcast can do that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of want to, maybe we'll try that another time. I want to invite some people from the chat on here to, cause I just want to see what it looks like with 6 people. Yeah. But I just did this thing. That's where I was. And so if you want to see my stuff, then you can go to CoreyKerr.com. It's right there on the screen. And if you would like to see Scott's stuff, then you can go to CircWorks.com. And if you'd like to see Josh's stuff, then you can go to JoshuaKemble.com. And I'm going to edit this one really fast. Okay. So if you want to check out more about this show and get that affiliate link, probably in a couple of minutes because it's not up yet, go to CoreyKerr.com/48HR. And there's old shows, and we haven't updated our podcast in a while, but there will be an affiliate link for StreamYard and stuff. So anyway, hopefully this solves some problems for some of you guys, and we'll see you in a couple days. Maybe.